Well, Joe Biden appears to have completed his final act of revenge when he met with President-elect Donald Trump at the White House. I mean, have you ever seen a happier man in your life before? Check out that smile. And I've got to say, all he needs is an ice cream, and he's a real winner. Now, that meeting turned into a rolling meme. It's always nice when President Trump takes time out of his busy day to meet one of his voters, said one ex-user. And have a look at this. And then get this, Beyonce didn't even sing. That's one of my favourites. Joining me now is Sky News contributor Beau Davidson. Beau, great to see you. Thanks for joining me. Joe Biden is clearly unburdened by what has been. He did, after all, put on a MAGA hat, and Dr. Jill wore red to go and vote last week. Have you ever seen a more gleeful president?
I would say he's quite unburdened, Danica. In fact, you could say he's ebullient, even perhaps. You know, there's that old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think that's what's going on here. You know, for all of the forgetfulness poor Joe has, his dementia, the things, his age and things, this is one thing he has not forgotten. He knows that Kamala did him dirty. And that's just one thing I don't think perhaps he will ever forget, despite his age. I think that meeting between Biden and Trump was surprisingly cordial. But there was this meeting of minds, you know, these strange bedfellows, because I think they both know exactly what's going on. But look, they both win because in the end, Joe Biden gets to ride off into the sunset, into his retirement with his ice cream, as you mentioned, and Trump gets a second term. So really, they both kind of get the last laugh, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. A bit for both, exactly. Now, I want to talk to you about Trump's new cabinet. We'll go through some of the key picks, including, of course, Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence. She's a former Democrat congresswoman. Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. Billionaire Elon Musk will run a new Department of Government Efficiency alongside former Republican primary candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Fox News host Pete Hegseth becomes Secretary of Defence, and RFK Jr. will lead the Health Department. Beau, how strategic are these appointments, and what's been the reaction to RFK Jr.?
A lot of them are great, Danica. Let's start off with Rubio. Excellent pick. Son of an immigrant. You know, dad was a bartender, knows communism from Cuba all too well, understands the Hamas conflict extremely well. He's going to be the embodiment of Trump's posture of peace through strength. Now let's go to Vivek and Elon. Wow, what two better non-swampers could you find to drain the swamp? I think those are excellent picks. Let's talk about Tulsi Gabbard. This is someone who was a former Democrat, but also comes from the military. But she's also surprisingly on this quiet skies watch list by the TSA. Why? Because she criticized Kamala Harris. So you know what? Returning to the intelligence community, maybe we can actually make intelligence intelligent again. Now, Pete Hegseth, I'm not too keen on, and I say that not because of any huge reason. He did lead his military platoon. He's just not a three-star general, and he was a Fox News host. He wrote a book, great. When you're talking about 6 branches of the military, I do question that, but, you know, he might not be so bad. But he is filling his cabinet with very, very strategic picks. To your point about RFK, one of the most exciting picks I think there is, make America healthy again. That was a hallmark of the Trump campaign, and he's making good on it. And it's putting Big Pharma on notice, Bill Gates on notice, the establishment on notice, Anthony Fauci on notice. Health wasn't something that was really talked about in a lot of presidential campaigns, and I think he's making good on this. So it's kind of a new Camelot, since the Kennedys were always called the era of Camelot. I like that pick, and I think a lot of people do too.
I agree. It's going to be really interesting as well to see how this cabinet develops in the Trump administration. Now, this is an interesting one because Congressman Matt Gaetz has been named as Trump's Attorney General, but some Republicans say he is the worst person for the role. The Wall Street Journal editorial board said that Donald Trump's appointment of him is a bad idea. He's a performer, a provocateur, and his view is that the more explosions he can cause, the more attention he can get. And here is some of his past commentary.
Is it safe to say that based off of your comments, you're suggesting that these women at these abortion rallies are ugly and overweight?
Yes.
What do you say to people who think that those comments are offensive?
Be offended.
Beau is certainly fiery like his boss. Why do you think Trump nominated him?
I think Trump wants to send a message. This is like a political grenade. It's a statement pick. Because Matt Gaetz is a guy who is a firebrand. He is a bit of a loudmouth. And it's symbolic, though, because he would examine the weaponization of the justice system. He'd look at the First and Second Amendments. He would look at border policy. He would look at election fraud. It's a very MAGA posture for a presidential pick. But it's also a notice to the establishment. You mentioned the Republicans that don't like him. I mean, this is the guy, if you remember, Danica, that was thwarting Kevin McCarthy's bid to be Speaker of the House. He kind of ticks off Republicans and Democrats alike. But I got to say this, he's going to face a lot of backlash. And the reason why is maybe in Australia, you don't know this, but there's an ethics investigation into him. And that was supposed to drop tomorrow and be made public, and Gates has resigned. As a result of his resignation, that report might not be made public. Now, it may be leaked. The Democrats may leak it, but this is something that's seriously being looked at and has been for quite some time, and always thought about Gates. So, I think it was a symbolic pick, what Trump was trying to do. The question of whether or not he can actually pass confirmation and become the next attorney general is an entirely different matter. But I think this is probably his most controversial pick and his most extreme pick.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. Now, look, no surprises here, but who would have thought ratings for left-wing media organisations have plummeted? In fact, total daily viewership for MSNBC fell by 51%. For CNN, it was 26. Now, not that they seem to want to learn, because here was MSNBC's Joy Reid's view on Trump's cabinet.
The former and future president is moving quickly to fill the clown car and round out his cabinet before he changes his mind and fires them all. Moments ago, Trump announced that he has selected Fox Weekend morning show host, you can't make this up, Pete Hegseth, to serve as Secretary of Defense, because why not?
And Beau, this is not true, because Hegseth actually served overseas as an Army major and was awarded 2 Bronze Stars. Are you surprised that the ratings are hemorrhaging?
Well, Danica, they're either stupid or they're stubborn. Because, the left and their media have one choir to preach to, and that's the left of the country, which you would say is what, about half of America? That's roughly 170 million people. Not only are they not being able to preach to half the country, they're not even able to preach to 0.5% of that number I just mentioned. So this is a time, honestly, for newsrooms to look back and look at their boards, look at their executive producers, look at their staff and say, hey, maybe we went wrong. You know what I mean? It's a time for reflection. And you hear a lot of times, Danica, that news producers and newsrooms and news media conglomerates will say, we want our station to be an accurate depiction of America, an accurate reflection. If there's no diversity of thought in your newsroom, then it is not an accurate depiction of America. It's completely one-sided. So this is a moment and time for introspection and reflection. And ABC, there's a report that just came out today that there was an all-hands-on-deck meeting talking about we've got to get more conservative commentators because they realize their flaw. They realize the hubris that they've had for so many years. And they're like, listen, this isn't even a political message. This is going to be an economic decision we're about to make. So I give ABC credit. We'll see whether they do anything. But really, this is a watershed moment for the media. They're declining, and they're going to continue to decline unless you have diversity of thought.
Yeah, and I think that's what Trump's re-election has told the world, that you need to have that diversity of thought. Beau Davidson, always wonderful to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Likewise.